tonight for the latest chapter of our climate change coverage called Earth, We're on It. We track climate change around the globe, focusing on experts. Today, we take a look at how NASA is using space technology to help prevent disasters here on Earth. With the help of satellites, scientists at NASA are able to provide scientific evidence of climate change, from global warming and melting ice caps to the recent deadly flooding in the Midwest. Compare these two satellite images of the Mississippi River. The first is from February of 2014. The second is February of this year, when melting snowpacks combined with a winter hurricane called a bomb cyclone pushed the Mississippi, Ohio, and Missouri rivers to some of their highest levels on record. Right now, hundreds of residents on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota remain stranded as roads are still blocked by floodwaters. We'll be reporting from there next week. NASA is hoping science will help predict future disasters. James Green is the chief scientist at NASA. It's so nice to have you.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So let's start with those two photographs,
right.
The one on the left from 2014, the one on the right during the flood. How do you look at information? How do you, as a scientist, look at information from those photos?
Well, those are really important to be studied and continued on. We need additional observations after the flood. Now, we're really trying also to prepare a set of analyses that will enable us to propagate the wave downstream.
And you can do that by looking at pre-flood, here's the flood, and actually, once the flood has passed, this is what it looks like.
We're doing that now. In other words, we can as the flood begins in the upper part of the Mississippi, downstream is where we will have the most effect by being able to predict when the water will rise, how high it will rise, and the kind of preparedness that FEMA and other agencies have to do to be able to mitigate a major disaster that's on its way.
So I was surprised that NASA had so much data about climate change and climate science. I mean, obviously, men walking on the moon, men and women, obviously spacecraft, all those things, clearly NASA's in that business. But why climate science?
Well, actually, NASA's got Earth-observing spacecraft and have been doing those for decades. All right, for a variety of reasons. Understanding the processes and the interaction between the ocean, the land, within the atmosphere, but also the polar caps. And this has really gotten us into the business of monitoring the climate over long periods of time. It's a very important part of our program.
So what are those sensors that you have all across the globe telling us most urgently about climate change?
Well, I'm a planetary scientist, so I can easily tell you the climate on the Earth has done nothing but change. So it's not about the change so much as about the rate and what will happen. So what happens then is the melting of the polar caps, the increasing temperature, climate pattern shifts. Those are all being monitored so that we can understand and predict what will happen in the future.
You're a scientist, and you're obviously the chief scientist at NASA. Does it seem like a strange time to you? In a way, it feels to me like we're having conversations about science with non-scientists, or even that there's literally a conversation about, is the world flat? And it is not just stuck in a handful of random people who, these are, the anti-vaxxers are getting a platform to talk about how vaccines are bad, and so now you have a measles outbreak across the country. It just seems to me that we're at a really strange time for science and scientists, and it's one of the reasons that for our coverage, we're only talking to experts. They don't have to agree, but we're only talking to experts. As a scientist, does that concern you?
No, not at all.
What?
It's actually a fabulous time because it gives us an opportunity to relay what we know. Now, science isn't necessarily an exact field. You know, there are things that we know, things that we can predict, things that we constantly want to measure. There are certain facts, but there are certain things that rely on those facts. And so the ability for scientists to communicate to the public in a dialogue is really important. We all have preconceived misconceptions, all right?
Yeah, but the Earth's not flat. I don't care what anybody tells me. We've covered that one, right? That one's done. We can put that one to bed.
That should be. But people don't always believe science and the methods that we use, and that's why it's an important element to educate them. Here's how and why we know the Earth is not flat. So it's not an either or, it's presenting the evidence, and you decide for yourself.
James Green is the chief scientist at NASA. So nice to have you.
Well, thank you very much. It was a delight to be here.
Appreciate that.